Hello and welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Today we look at a woman who headed up a crime group that supplied over half a ton of cocaine and laundered millions of pounds in illicit cash and who has been jailed for 15 years. Nicola Stevens' illegal business was brought down when she, along with 5 other members of the criminal network, were arrested by the Organised Crime Partnership. Investigators from the OCP, a joint national crime agency, and Metropolitan Police Service unit had been watching the group as they conducted multiple drug deals and cash handovers in Gravesend in the week before their arrest. Miss Stevens, 51, coordinated the group's activity with her son-in-law and second-in-command, Luke Corribel, 32. They were supported by 3 couriers, David Adinej, 29, Kyle Hills, 32, Kuang Viet Pham, 29. Miss Stevens' partner, Philip Spence, 52, helped launder the dirty cash. The gang also used code names to message each other. On April 14, 2020, OCP officers watched the couriers meet briefly in Hillingdon Road, Gravesend, before both driving separately the short distance to Mr. Corribel's house in Gatwick Road. Mr. Corribel came out of his house and opened the door to his van for Mr. Hills, who then transferred a large box from his own van to Mr. Corribel's. Officers then moved in and detained Mr. Hills, but Mr. Corribel fled. The box was seized from his van and found to contain 20 kilos of cocaine. A further 4 kilos were found under the floorboards in his house. Mr. Aden Ag also attempted to drive away but was stopped and arrested a short time after. At the same time, Miss Stevens and Mr. Spence were arrested at their house in Rochester Road, where officers seized more than £200,000 in cash, encrypted phones, a money counting machine and drug dealing paraphernalia. Mr. Corribel handed himself into a police station 2 days later. Officers had arrested Mr. Pham a week prior to this after he was seen picking up a bag of cash from Miss Stevens. He had attempted to hide the bag in a specially constructed concealment in his van disguised as a Honda branded generator. A matching concealment was found in Mr. Ajeni's car on the day of his arrest. The group conducted their business via the encrypted messaging service EncroChat, which was taken down in July 2020 as part of Operation Phonetic. Messages downloaded from their phones showed them arranging meetings to pick up or exchange drugs and money on a daily basis. Upon receiving a message that he was about to be delivered some cash, Mr. Corribel, aka Dreamwalker, replied, "And you want me to take to Mum?" referring to Miss Stevens. In another exchange sent during lockdown, Miss Stevens tells Mr. Adenejiji about Power Royale. "I'm going to look online and buy you all high-vis jackets to make you look like workers." Following Mr. Ajani's arrest, Miss Stevens received a message telling her stay inside. They got Mr. Ajani. She replied, "Who? The police?" and is then told yes, stay in and hide the money. Investigators found that, in total, the crime group were involved in the movement of around 786 kilos of cocaine and £5 million in cash. The total profit of the drugs sold by the group is believed to be at least £27.5 million. At Woolwich Crown Court, a jury found Miss Stevens guilty of conspiracy to supply cocaine and money laundering. Mr. Spence was convicted of money laundering. They were sentenced to 15 years and 9 months, respectively. The other 4 members of the group had already pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply Class A drugs and money laundering on various dates. They were each sentenced to between 7 and 8 years in jail, but a judge deemed their sentences too lenient and increased them as follows. Mr. Corribel, 8 years and 3 months, was increased to 13 years. Mr. Pham, who received 7 years and 2 months, now must serve 12 years. Mr. Adeniji, who received 8 years and 3 months, now must serve 13 years. Mr. Hills, who received 7 years and 6 months, now sentenced to 11 years. John Coles, head of specialist operations at the NCA, said, "This targeted investigation conducted jointly by the NCA and the Met Police has taken out an entire organised crime group who were responsible for distributing huge amounts of Class A drugs throughout London and the home countries. The convictions mean the last remaining members of the gang, Miss Stevens and Mr. Spence, will join the rest of their criminal family behind bars." Disrupting the organised crime groups responsible for bringing Class A drugs into the UK is a priority for the NCA. Cocaine supply causes significant harm to the public through its links to violence and the exploitation of young and vulnerable people. Through our partnership with the Met, we are able to ensure we are targeting those higher up the drug supply chain and having a significant impact on a local level. Detective Superintendent Simon Mooring from the Metropolitan Police said, Tackling violence on the streets of London remains our absolute top priority. This operation has significantly disrupted the activities of an organised crime group intent on importing and distributing Class A drugs across not just London, but the entire of the United Kingdom. There is an undeniable link between drugs and violence on the streets. Many people may believe this level of organised crime has no impact on the day-to-day lives of the general public, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The drugs distributed by this group would have gone down the chain and ended up being sold on the streets of cities across the country. We will continue to develop and carry out operations of this scale, and will continue to identify those involved in serious and organised crime and bring them to justice. A National Crime Agency officer used a suspected drug dealer's debit card to buy 10 breakfasts for himself and colleagues, the court heard. Paul Seeley was accused of using Nicola Stevens' card to order £9.99 for English meals after her arrest. The breakfasts were ordered from a cafe by phone after she was nabbed. Veteran NCA agent Mr. Seeley wept up in the witness box as he denied the Breakfastgate claims while giving evidence. Judge David Miller adjourned the case against Miss Stevens, 51, while the allegations were investigated. He told the jury the next day, "We have been delayed today because of what I have called Breakfastgate. The accusations against the investigating officer of using one of the defendant's cards to purchase breakfast. Mr. Seeley was accused of making the order from Romford Police Station, East London, where Miss Stevens was taken and held." Prosecutor Tim Probert Wood told Woolwich Crown Court the order of £99.90 was made but was never collected. Mr. Seeley admitted photographing the bank card and writing down the numbers, but said the breakfast order was nothing to do with him. So what are your thoughts about this London-based crime gang and the head of the group, Nicola Stevens, and their goals to flood the UK with vast amounts of Class A drugs? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay safe.